he started to panic. He says, I have been a Catholic all my life. I've got to get that message over to my, I just can't go without doing that. So I said, I'll tell you what I'll do, John. You give me your confession, and I promise to you, as a Marine, that I will say every word to Father Inman when I next see him. Well, he thought that was the only thing, but that's what he'd do. So he gave me his confession, which I'll never repeat to another soul. I'll take it to my grave with me. And as I left, you know, I was brushing away my tears. I felt so sorry for that fellow. He was in agony, and to think there was nothing I could do. There was nothing I could do with all the training and everything I had. There was nothing I could do in that case. Well, let me tell you something. In the year 2014 was my lucky year, my big year. We had been married 70 years on that date. We had 19 grandchildren. But you know, for years and years, Lois will tell you, at night I would get up in the middle of the night, wringing wet sweat. Sometimes I'd yell out. Sometimes I'd be crying. She'll tell you it wasn't any fun. Because I could remember all of these things, you know, especially in Korea. What happened in 2014? I was at home. I got a message. This fellow rang the bell, and he said, hello, is this Chief Robert Creer? I said, yes, it is. He says, you don't know me. I want to introduce myself. I'm the principal of a Catholic girls' school in Regina, Illinois, which is a suburb of Chicago. Well, I said, I'm glad. What can I do for you? Would you be prepared to talk to my school? We'd love to have you come out on December the 7th. And I said, well, absolutely, but this is about the 1st of December. I thought, well, how are we going to do this? He says, I know a television producer in Vancouver that's going to come to your house, and he's going to interview you at the house. I'm going to have a television crew in our school. You'll be able to talk to them. They'll be able to talk to you. 9 o'clock, December the 7th, there sure enough the hookup was made, and I could see all the students there, and all the class, the whole school there. And in front were 12 young ladies, and they were the ones that were going to ask me questions. And I've never talked to any nicer people in my life than I did those 12. They were wonderful, wonderful people. And this one girl came out and they asked questions, and they said, well, what question do you have? And she says, you're a strong Protestant. And I says, yes, I'm a Methodist. I've always gone to church, yes. But she says, have you ever been in a situation where you had to talk to a Catholic person for their confessions and there's nothing you could do? There was no father? Well, she hit the nail right on the head. Absolutely. And I told her the story, and she said, well, Chief, you said you did the right thing. You did the thing you knew that all you could do. You thought enough about him. You had other chores to do, but you stuck it out. You delivered it. He said, there's nothing more that could have been done. You did the perfect thing. Her name was, what was her name? I can't remember. I forgot it momentarily. Adrian. Her name was Adrian. I said, Adrian, you have no idea how much I appreciated what you told me. You know, from that date on to the present date, I don't get up crying anymore. I don't get up hollering anymore. She was really, I don't know what you want to call her. It was just something I never thought I would get over. So anyway.
That's
what I'm going to talk about in Florida.
Wow.
That's
great-grandfather.
When you're talking, don't be rubbing your nose. You're talking
Just
through
ask
it.
about travel, and then I think we should.
Yeah, I mean,
Or grandkids.
No, you just about talked to me enough.
okay.
Rachel.
So yeah, I only have two more questions about the Navy, and then.
Oh, here's a question for you. Just happened to think of it. At one of the places, up when I talked to in Seattle, a young chap up at high school, North Bend. He got up in the question and answer period, and he asked me. He said, "When you were in the service during that time, how long were you aboard the destroyer?" I said, 3.5 years. Well, he said, during that time you must have things happen. I said, yes. I said, a lot of things happened. You weren't home for Thanksgiving. You weren't home for Christmas. And I said, yes, and I lost my grandfather. And my sister got married, I wasn't there. Well, he says, let me ask you, Chief, if you had it to do over again, would you join the Navy? And I said automatically, absolutely. There's no greater reward than serving your country, especially when you're needed. I was needed at Pearl Harbor. I was needed in Japan. I was needed in Okinawa. There's no greater thing. Now, where am I at now? See, I don't want to get too far ahead of myself.
Yeah.
Oh, I know. Excuse me. So I had one fellow ask me, and he lived in, I think it was Forks. The little town of Forks, and I was there. And he said, Chief, you were in the Navy and you were in the Marine Corps. We call you a sailor, or do we call you a Marine? And I said, that's a good question. And I told him about the ratings and how they're different and stuff. And he said, well, what do you like the best, the Navy or the Marines? I said, well, the Navy was great because I had a lot of good shipmates. We went to a lot of reunions. It was wonderful. I enjoyed the Navy tremendously, but I also loved the Marines. And I said, now, every night before I go to bed, I thank God that a Marine is not my enemy. That's how much I think of the Marines. They're second to none. Okay, you go ahead for another question.
Yeah. So just two more questions. So what was boot camp like for you? What was boot camp like?
Boot camp?
My what?
You went to boot camp.
What, my boot camp?
Yes.
Oh, my boot camp was a regular thing. It was we had lots of fun and hard work. Oh, marched all over the place, all over the city, and we were in bed at 8 o'clock at night. We're up first thing in the morning. Oh, and we had all these obstacles to go over. Later, when I got into the Marine Corps, I had to go through Camp Pendleton and go through the Marine as well. And there they use live ammunition. That's scary to go through that. I went through that and qualified. And the boot camp, that wasn't the boot camp, that was the training to go overseas. But in the boot camp, it was, I can't say I liked it. It wasn't easy, but we did all right. One time we acted up and they caught us, and so we had to stand out in front. And the old chief come out and he saw this friend of mine and I, and he said, are you doing this and you doing that and so on and so on. Or some minor thing, some minor nothing. But you're responsible. You don't do anything like that. And they dressed us. You know, I had to scrub the whole entranceway with a toothbrush. With a toothbrush. Do you have how long it take to do that? I had red knees for months. Anyway, the boot camp was okay, but I would like to avoid the school. The hospital corps school was the greatest. That is second to none. And anybody that ever goes to the Navy, I would recommend it without any hesitation. Second to none. Now, you have any more?
Memory of Pearl Harbor being bombed.
You've got to get something to Lois.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, one more.
The memory of Pearl Harbor.
So Sorry, you go ahead and ask him.
Well, you were going to ask him when you realized that you were being attacked at Pearl Harbor. At what moment did you realize that?
Well, that's interesting, Mary.
Give me that.
I was going to go ashore that morning with a friend of mine, a Cassese, he's a yeoman. And we went down below and had our breakfast. And when we got through, we came back up. And when we started going up the ladder, we don't call them stairways, we call them ladders. We're up the ladders. And we're coming back by the quarter deck, which is where the officer of the day stands. And I happened to look and I thought to myself, oh my gosh, it's Ensign, I won't say his name, but this particular ensign, we'll say Ensign Jones. Ensign Jones, he's just out of the academy. Oh, thank goodness I'm going ashore today with you. I said that to Cassese, because this fellow will be going all over the ship. He's got spit and polish, you know, one of those, oh man, one of those kind. Oh, and he was, I didn't like sitting with him for one bit. Anyway, we went down below. He went to his locker, I went to my locker. I started getting dressed and I shaved and so on and so forth. And all of a sudden the GQ button, the GQ, general quarters. And I said, see, he's found the GQ button. We thought it was that nitwit up there. So we took our time. Oh yeah, sure. Went up the ladder, we went up the fantail, and we looked out and there was a plane that flew over the top, kept on going, and all of a sudden there was a big explosion on Ford Island where the Navy Air Force was. I said, what night, did you see that? Yeah, boy, somebody's in. We thought it was perhaps some pilots that had too much to drink. And then all of a sudden another one come back, and then it dawned on us, this is no drill. This is the real McCoy. And where I was standing, and I'll remember this as long as I live, a plane came down past us. It was a torpedo plane. And he was headed right for the Pennsylvania. The Pennsylvania was a battleship, was the flagship of the Pacific Fleet. It was in dry dock. It was headed right for the Pennsylvania. And I looked up and I could see that great big sun. And I said, this is the real McCoy. And I looked and I could see the pilot and he looked at me. And although it was just a matter of seconds, it seemed like an eternity that we looked at each other. Oh, you're the enemy. Oh, you're the enemy. I was looking right at him. Absolutely. And that's what happened before the attack started. So then I had to get my material all together. And my duty station was the officer's table in the officer's wardroom. I stripped it down and put everything in there, had it all going. I had some casualties, but nothing what was serious. In the afternoon, about 2:30 or 3 o'clock, we got underway. We were one of the only ships that wasn't hit. And we got underway, and that's how, that was the end of Pearl Harbor for me.
When did you get called back?
Huh?
You got called back.
Yes, I told him about that.
Oh, you
when
did?
you look back, I could see the columns of smoke, and I didn't think I'd ever see land again.
Oh, yeah.
Japanese made an awful big mistake. They didn't hit the supply line. Why didn't they? They didn't have any backup force. They could have come in that day and taken over.
Yeah.
So they made two big mistakes. Yeah. Now, is that all the questions?
Yeah, I think that's.
We had one more question, which is fast forward. Why did you move to Toronto? What did you move to Toronto for?
I moved to Toronto for the same reason I joined the American Navy. It was an opportunity. I had Ingram and Bell, which at that time in Toronto was the largest medical surgical supply company in the British Empire. They had heard about my work in Seattle, and I was recommended. And the president of the firm came out to Vancouver and met with me in Vancouver and talked with me, and he says, "You're the man I want for the job." So I left from there, left the family in Seattle, and I went back to Toronto with the president. He wasn't on that trip. But I went all the way, and I checked in there, and I was the branch manager for Ingram & Bell for all of Ontario. So it was an opportunity. Everything has gone my way.
Anything else?
I think that's it.
Thank you,
I hope
Grandpa.
I hope you